Welcome back to the channel, folks, and to another battle report. This week we're going to be playing a game using the new dynamic points for mid-war. There's been a lot of talk about them around the forums, Facebook, in our local groups and so on. So me and Mark thought we'd give it a try. Now, we played a game of mid-war not too long ago, so we're going to use something similar each, but apply the new points to see what difference it makes in the games. Now, you probably have an opinion about any points changes for mid-war. This is either too much, too little, shouldn't happen at all. So once you've seen the game, if you've got any thoughts, stick them down in the comments and let us know what they are. Battlefront are also taking feedback as well, so you can get back to them directly. Personally, I haven't played a lot of Eastern Front. In mid-war, most of my games have been desert. And in the desert, the Germans have seemed quite capable, and it's seemed like quite balanced games. The Eastern Front, though, for what I have seen so far, well, yeah, I can understand how being a German player might be quite tricky. If you don't bring 88s or Marders, you just can't hurt some of even the medium Soviet options. So I can see why these changes came along. I've not been in a rush to see them myself, but I'm certainly keen to try them out. And so let's go over to the lists, see what Mark's brought and see what I've brought and how they differed from the previous game. And also there'll be a link at the end to that particular game where me and Mark played mid-war Soviets. So you can check out that, even if just to see what the lists were like for that. On you go.
Right. So my army this time has been optimised really to take advantage of the points difference. We have 4 Panzer IVs, which is the same as last time. The Panzer IIs rather, we now have 5, a full platoon, rather than the 3 that we had the last time. The big difference is in the Panzer IIIs, which the last time we had 4 platoons of 3 and the 2 HQ. This time we have 3 platoons of 3 and the 2 HQ. But this time all of the Panzers are upgraded to long 5s, whereas the last time they were all short 5s. So we're going to see what the difference is in the anti-tank effect in this game. This is to keep the infantry honest. Nice artillery battery. These guys, we'll see what happens, but these guys were designed as well as a bit of an anti-infantry because they've got enough firepower, and now there's 5 of them. I think there's probably got enough of them to actually do something. But we'll see what happens with Frank's army, because he'll change his army a bit to take out the points as well.
Certainly having the long 5s makes a big difference for a Panzer III coming up against a T-34, so it looks like a list that could do something against Soviet armour now.
The only not problem it's got, but the only thing is 3 tanks is still quite a bit weaker than the 4 tank platoon.
Killing a bale, and if you don't remount, you're on a last stand.
Yeah.
But the Panzer III's protected ammo, and the Reich rule, hopefully, if you don't roll a 1 or a 2, that famous phrase, then they should keep themselves in the game. Okay, folks, let's go over now and have a look at the Soviet list. Right, folks, here is my list. In the last game we played, I used the mixed tankovy, which is quite different from this in that it's got KVs, and I decided I wasn't going to bring KVs. First of all, because they're probably going to be too dominating. It was the lighter version of KVs, but even then, they'd be too dominating. Not necessarily going to teach us anything from just having mobile pillboxes. And also, when you worked out what additional tanks you would get in the list, unless I was going to start bringing things like Valentines that I don't have, then there wasn't really any real difference in the list, just a couple of tanks. So I've brought an ordinary T-34 company. So as you can see, it's got 2 platoons, company HQ. So that's 7 and 6. And then still in the formation, I'm subbing in my T-70s here, but there's 6 T-60s. And then still in the formation, 4 76 mils and 15 bases of submachine guns. In support, I have a battery of 4 122mm artillery and my good old, they're still white folks, my good old clown cars, 47mm BA-10s. So, This list is built around these guys. Now they are reckless, which means they're hit on a 2, as are those guys. So they're going to take a lot of hits, but front armour 6 is not too bad. We're up against anti-tank 9 in the main, so they've got a good chance of saving. They're only going to face a firepower to be destroyed at short range, for instance, if they roll a 1 or a 2. And even on the side, if they roll a 1, 2 or a 3. So they're not too bad. They should be quite survivable even if they're hit on a 2 up. The infantry are aggressive, confident, green, but they've also got the 4 up save. They've got a better charge distance with the hurrah roll, but they have got a 4 up save, which makes them quite vulnerable. And then these guys, they are just aggressive. They guys are aggressive, just pretty much Soviets as you would expect. So there's quite a lot of tanks in there. They're easy hit, but they should be quite survivable. But you know, as they're being reckless, one other thing I definitely will need for my list is plenty of smoke markers, I think. After a bit of discussion, myself and Mark decided we were going to play Dust Up. It'll get both of us on an even footing in the game in terms of what's on the table, what's on reserves. So Dust Up, as you can see from the layout on screen here, is one of those games that's got the big sort of pizza dish space in the middle where you cannot get close to each other. Otherwise, the objective zones are quite close. You can see that it's possible to be quite direct in this game, or because it's got delayed reserves, it's most likely for it to be a bit of a slow burner. Both sides will have 60% on, 40% off, so it's hard to get a critical mass that's able to go attacking an objective whilst also keeping your own objective safe, because you don't know when your opponent's reserves are going to come in, so it can, as I said, be a bit of a slow burner. Now, special rules in this game are quite simple. It is meeting engagement and delayed reserves. The meeting engagement affects only the first player, as you will hopefully know, and they won't be able to do any artillery bombardment, use planes, and all firing will be at moving rate of fire, though it quite often is the case that in this game the player with the first turn doesn't do very much. Right folks, we have deployed and ready to go. The mission is Dust Up, so just to start with deployment, first of all, Mark won the roll off to be the attacker and he chose this corner to attack from. He knows that I am going to have to deploy over this river, which will make it difficult for my reserves. There'll be cross checks needed, except on the ford. Oh, the river folks might be playing as a shallow river, which just means cross checks. Though the ford is terrain that can be crossed. This bridge will just be road. This we're going to call terrain, so you can't dash over this bridge because it's a bit too rickety. It's a bit rickety looking. So, where did you put your objectives down first of all, Mark?
I put one back here in the back of my deployment zone to enable me to hold it, and one towards the front of Frank's deployment zone. Hopefully the river acting as a bit of a buffer to stop him getting people in close if I can get into it.
Right, and I've put, first of all, the defensive one I put down was back, quite similar to be honest, back here in the middle so that they can kind of support each other. And then I've put one over here. Now, I suppose it's directly in line with my best angle of approach, but it's also got some tall terrain, which might be needed to keep me safe from tanks on the hill, especially as my guys are reckless and hit on a 2. What have you got on the table and what have you got in reserve, Mark?
Okay, on the table, I've got 2 platoons of the Panzer IIIs with the long 5s, the HQ with the Panzer IIIs long 5s, and a platoon of Panzer IIs. Off the table, I've got another platoon of Panzer IIIs and the Panzer IVs.
Right, and they did a spearhead move.
They did the spearhead because they've got the spearhead rule to move themselves over there.
Right, so what have I got on the table? First of all, my artillery's gone here. They're going to have to self-spot, to be honest. We'll see how that goes. It's quite a restricted deployment zone, just being the quarter, but I've put them here. They've got a direct fire range of 16. We were talking about that, Mark, and we decided if these guys actually manage to shoot at any tanks, get within 16 of them, it's because they're dead already. Anti-tank guns are placed here. They can give cover and fire up that way, fire onto the objective. That's at an angle so it can fire onto the objective and potentially fire through any gaps for teams that are dead. Infantry in a big blob here. And then I put my tanks. Remember, it's alternative deployment, folks, so the tanks went down last. So I've seen everything that Mark's put down. I put my tanks over here. I can maybe get a push on round that way, but I can swing round because I'm over the river. I can swing round if I need to protect my objectives as well. Could be a slow burner this game, by the way, because it's delayed reserves. And in reserve, I've got quite a lot of stuff. I've got my platoon of 7 T-34s with the HQ, my BA-10 armoured cars, and my 6 T-60s. So it's a good, strong, solid force to come on, but it's got to come on over the river, so we'll see how it goes. Anyway, we're going to have to roll off to see who goes first, folks. So, a 2 and a 6. So Mark is going to go first. It's not going to bother him in the slightest that he's got no artillery bombardment this turn. So, we'll come back at the end of Mark's turn 1. Turn 1.
Right, so turn 1. Panzers here have just stayed stationary. The guys that were here have come around this side. Oops, not them. Come around this side, dashed, come around here to act as a bit of a buffer in case those what's called Panzers. In case those T-34s decide to come this way, and the Panzer IIs have just shuggled it behind the cover of the wood in case Panzers, in case the T-34s try to come around this way. Other than that, there's not much we can do. We don't have anything to be able to knock chunks off Frank at the moment, and there's nothing much within the range, although these guys are going to come on. I have to watch what being flanked by them at the moment. So
it's a common problem in turn 1 of this mission, especially if the attacker's got so few platoons. Anyway, over to the Soviets. I've got some movement for sure, and maybe even some shooting. Soviet turn 1. So in terms of movement, these infantry have moved up. I want to get in front of the objective and dig in. And to support them, that's why I put my tanks over here, so I could discourage them from coming forward. So I've dashed them up to here. They can be shot at next turn, so they could be taking casualties straight away. But beside that, I just sit back and do nothing. So I'm moving up into at least some cover. That left shooting, and these guys, I mean, they're going to have a hard day today because it's just tanks they're up against, but they managed to range in even a 6 on the first attempt, which I thought, oh, that's a bit of a miracle. And then they rolled a 1, a 2 and a 2 to hit. I thought, oh, well, that's Soviet normal service for mid-war artillery. So they didn't get any hits there. They're unlikely to be in the same position next turn, so that ranged in marker probably won't mean much. But I've started moving now. I want to get in front of that objective a bit. Started manoeuvring my tanks over here to support that, and that's about it so far. So over to Mark for his turn 2. Turn 2. Right, Mark, on you go.
Alright, okay, so turn 2. The platoon on the hill has moved forward. The company commander has moved forward. There's more action on this side of the table at the moment. These guys tried to go into the woods. One of them made it. The other two decided, no, we like artillery.
We're not scared.
The Panzer IVs, keep on, I've got Panzer IVs on my mind. Panzer IIs came out and shot up his infantry here. He had a plink at the tanks and missed. He had a plink at the infantry and missed. We managed to kill 2 infantrymen with 12 hits on his...
which is quite good shooting. Was it 12 hits? Some were looking for 3 ups, some for 4 ups. But remarkably, these 2 here rolled 3 4-up saves each. So it kind of evened itself out in a way, but 2 dead infantry.
Yep. First blood to the Germans.
Soviet turn 2, folks. So first of all, these guys unpinned. And then I needed to get a 5 to dig them in. So they're dug in. They've not gotten very far. I would have hoped to get them a bit further forward, but they're just going to get machine gunned to bits. And then 2 T-34 stayed put and the rest moved up. So in terms of shooting, these guys are mightily surprised. There's still stuff under the template. And they got 2 hits, but they both saved. They're only going to get destroyed if Mark rolls a 1, and he saved comfortably. And then this lot here, the T-34s, they fired and needed 6. He's got 2 hits. He saved 1, failed 1, but I failed the firepower, unfortunately, so I had a chance to get 1 there. and that would have been very useful, but he's bailed out. It's at long range there, guys, so I'll need 6. In fact, I would have needed a 7 because it's overworked, so I'm going to roll that one that's bailed out. Did I get? No, so he's not even bailed out. He's fine. Remember the overworked rule, guys, for them. Now they're stationary, they just have to worry about actually being in range because the range isn't that good. So there you go, folks. We have joined the fight with reserves likely to start arriving, and they could arrive right on the flank of my guys here. So we'll see what happens. Turn 3. Go then.
Right then, so the panzers kept reforming over here. So the panzers that moved into here from the hill and moved back up to here to take this objective. Company commander came down here to where the action is. These guys decided that being under the 122 barrage was not good, and both of them did manage to get through. This platoon then fired on these guys, bailed 1. These guys shot up the infantry and killed 3, which is quite a good result. My reserves did come on, and 1 reserve came on, and they came up to here, into the tree line, fired through the tree line, killed the bailed out tank from the first platoon, and then killed 1 and bailed 1 for their own shooting, for their actual direct shooting. So, quite a successful German turn, really, at the moment.
You forgot about the Panzer IIs.
No, they shot the infantry.
Yeah, so the Panzer IIs shot these guys 6 hits out of 12, and then basically I think I kept rolling 1s or 2s for these, and these guys continued with the 1s or 2s. A 3 wouldn't have done it either for them though, because they're 4 up, so they're not going to be doing a lot of saves, but 3 of them dead, so they've now lost 5 of their 15. So they're getting whittled down, and of course they're getting clobbered. You know, this is a game where sometimes if you make the early move, the dice go against you and the reserves arrive in turn 1. But, well, what can you do? You could just sit back, but this is actually quite a quicker burner game of dust up than most that I'm used to. Most of the time when I'm playing, both sides actually do nothing for 6 turns.
Until the reserves come on.
Yeah, so we'll see. I'll be rolling for reserves. I might get lucky. Turn 3. Soviet turn 2. So in terms of motivation, that guy didn't get back in. In terms of reserves, I actually got reserves, so I brought them on over here. Now the reason I put them here is because they're just at their extreme range, but they're a chance of hitting those Panzer IIIs there without concealment, and they were going to need it because of the overworked. And then over here, I pulled those 3 surviving Panzer IIIs back to take cover behind tree lines, so they could only see 1 Panzer III, the one in the front of that line of 3s. So in terms of shooting, start with the 122s, they actually managed to range in again. They managed to get 3 Panzer IIs, one of which ended up as a bail. And then these guys needing a 6, because it would be a 4 normally, 5 concealment, 6 overworked. They managed to get 1 hit on a Panzer III, but rolled a 6, so he's fine. And then over here, these guys, 6 shots, managed to get a hit again. Only ended up as a potential bail because it's a long range. The armour goes up to 6, and I failed the firepower for the bail. So I can't really do anything, folks. I'm just going to have to sit and take the pain and see if the worm will turn. Turn 4.
Turn 4, Panzers here.
Hey, first of all, no reserves.
Sorry, no reserves came on.
And you had a remount.
A remount, yep. So a remount who got in successfully, and no more reserves came on. So these guys pulled back to here to come out of range of the T-34s, but within range of mine. Then they missed. This company HQ tried to cross here to get an extra couple of shots in. One guy made it, missed. Over here, we'll do it in the order that we did it. So the Panzer IIIs over here moved up so they could actually all be able to shoot at the T-34s. Scored 3 hits. Frank moved one of them onto the this tank here, which then saved its throw. And then the 2 other hits we did, one was destroyed and one's bailed.
I should point out, folks, that I'm only getting destroyed or bailed on, or destroyed rather than 1s and 2s, and I keep rolling fucking 1s and 2s.
Okay, over here, the Panzer IIs opened up, did a blitz move to get out of the artillery and still be able to shoot. Used their autocannons, and they killed 1 infantryman.
Yeah, I got 4 hits and 1 kill, so it went a bit better for them that turn.
And then the Panzer IIIs opened fire on them, got a couple of hits, but both were saved. So we've pinned them, but that's all we've done to
Yeah,
them.
because they're almost all dead, to be honest. I think they've lost about at least 6 bases so far.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They've got 10 left. There's 10 still left.
Yeah, so they've lost 6. Right, so over to me now. I've got some important motivations and praying for reserves. Soviet turn 4, so first of all, one tank got back in and one didn't. And these guys unpinned, and I got another reserve, and I've brought on my T60s starting from this point. That's like the other half of the table's that way. And they've dashed over here for some cover, though to be honest it's not much in the way of cover. These guys, there's no point in them staying on the hill, they cannot reach them, and if they move down to then shoot, I would need to get 7s that turn, and then if I was still alive, so I'm biding my time there. I'm going to maybe see what happens. So in terms of shooting, the artillery finally failed to range in. I tried to range in over here. These guys stayed going ground. Anti-tank guns, 2 of them were in line of sight of 1 Panzer IV, and I got 2 hits out of 4, so that wasn't bad. And they got a kill. And then the other ones over here, they managed to get 2 hits from that one, none from him. And it was a save and a potential bail, and I got a bail. So I've whittled them down. These guys just have to somehow try and stay alive. There's nothing else for it. I considered pulling them back, but what's the point? If they roll a 4 or more when they're hit, they'll survive. So they just have to do that. And elsewhere, these guys are just staying, gone to ground. But I think the Germans are still pretty much on the front foot as far as the shootiness goes. We just have to see what happens as far as the rest of the game goes and the objective taking part of it goes. Turn 5.
A guy got back in, got my reserves, and then movement. These guys have pushed forward to push them back. Tanks from over here have moved up this way to push into the defensive. Panzer IIs have cleared the path for the Panzer IVs that came on, and also to get some shots into the infantry that's in here. Sneakily keeping out of range of the 76s, who would make mincemeat of them. The other guys stayed stationary, the Panzer IVs moved up. These guys stayed stationary to give some firepower into these guys. So these guys fired into the tanks. They killed 2 and double bailed the second one, but the one that was double bailed, the one that was bailed. However, he passed his motivation, so he's still going around. The tanks, the Panzer IVs, the Panzer IIs, and these Panzer IVs all had a blap at the infantry and killed 2 for all my troubles.
Yeah, it was the Panzer IIs that did it again.
Yep. I think they might be suppressed though, because we've got enough hits on them to.
Oh, they're definitely pinned.
Yep. And that basically was a German turn.
Oh no, I don't think they're actually pinned. But we'll come back. We'll double check it.
Yeah.
It doesn't. They're not going anywhere anyway, and they're not shooting at you, so it's not going to affect the rate of fire. Right. I won't have a moan, folks. 3 more saves there where I rolled under a 3. I only need to get a 3 to keep them alive, so they've not made any saves. They've made 1 save actually in the whole game, so I'm in big trouble. Soviet turn 5. So I've got the last of my reserves on, the HQ and the armoured cars. In terms of motivation, we've just left you guys pinned. In the dust flying everywhere, I've no idea. Quite happy for them to be pinned. That guy got back in and then legged it. I rolled another 2, folks. It's a 3-up plus stand. So at least he remounted and then he beat it. And then in terms of movement, T-70s are moving here. These, I've got for a dash for what's worth. The guys dashed to there. They've dashed on, believe it or not, from about this point. He's going to catch up. And then in shooting, that just left the artillery needing a 6 to range in. And as you would expect, it didn't. 1 gun was able to shoot and it fired and needed 6s on. 1 tank missed. And that's it for shooting, folks. So I'm just saying, come ahead. That is extremely exposed. I've got to come forward to deal with it, but I reckon those guys are all going to be dead very soon. So my tanks will have to move into that area somehow to contest that objective. Turn 6.
Okay, so the Germans had no one to get back in or anything, no more reserves. So it was a bit of a shooting phase. These guys moved up to behind the cover to stop the guns shooting. These guys started to push on this flank. Everybody else basically stayed stationary to open fire. Artillery bombardment onto the anti-tank guns, knocked out one of them. These guys, the Panzer IIIs here and the Panzer IIs, shot up the infantry again, killed one. These guys shot and got 3 hits on the tanks down there, but didn't actually do anything, all bounced, and then they shot and scooted and came back behind a bit of cover in case Frank wants to come racing down the hill and the road towards me.
So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bases left there, and I reckon you're probably not going to come forward at all until they're dead. Because you're a bit worried about them. So it's maybe a question of how long do these last before the assault comes in. Right, Soviet turn 6. So in terms of motivation, for what it's worth, they unpinned, as did the guns, but the guns are not in range of anything. So I had an opportunity to put these T-34s up on this hill to get some short range shots at those guys, looking for 5s, but then he would have to roll a 1, 2 or 3 to fail any hits I did get. So I maybe would have killed a couple, but I'm going to lose the game if I do that. So I'm going to bring them over here. I'm basically going to put a huge wedge of anti-tank fire as much as I can to try and defend that objective. That's the only thing I can do, to my mind, other than just going for a Hail Mary. But I'd rather not. I would rather try to hold on to this. It's maybe the wrong thing to do, especially because this artillery is probably going to kill them opening the door, but we'll see. So in terms of shooting, my artillery finally managed to get a range in, got 1 hit on these guys, but a save. But the only way they're going to get killed is if they roll a 1. But that's what my artillery is going to have to try and do, to try and help these guns. So over to Mark for his turn 7. Turn 7.
So, German panzers on my right wing have pushed across the river to start outflanking Frank. These 2 panzers moved up. I had a pop at the artillery, missed. These guys and this platoon over here all fired at the infantry and killed 1 for my pains.
The reason is you're at long range now, because all the guys to the front are dead. You were hitting me on 5s before and then on 6s, and that makes a big difference.
Yeah. But the Panzer IVs continued their artillery barrage and knocked out 2 of Frank's 76mm guns, which is a good piece of news from my point of view. So that was the German turn, basically.
Soviet turn 7, unpinned and stayed, but it's not got any targets because the Germans won't come and play. So in terms of movement, these are they're not really over the river yet. 1 bogged, 4 made it over, they're moving off to try cover the objective. These guys are moving up, staying at a bit of a safe distance just now. And armour cars are going off to do clown car stuff. In terms of shooting, it was just the artillery, and they actually did something. Killed a Panzer III, killed a Panzer IV, and nearly bailed another one. That would have been handy. But that's it for me, folks. I'm just going to now just try and wait. I can't do anything until he comes forward because it ranges me, and he's not on the objective. So I'm waiting for Mark to come forward, and then it's just going to be a shootout. Turn 8.
Okay, so the Germans did not have anyone bailed out, and they had suffered heavy casualties last turn. The tanks on my right have moved around the flank, fired into the 122s, didn't do anything. These guys tried to blitz, failed, and then shot into the 122s, didn't do anything. These guys moved forward, fired onto the T-70s, aren't they?
60s.
T-60s. Got a few bails, or got a few hits, but didn't do anything to them. All the saves were made for those guys. These guys fired at the T-60s as well. Didn't do...
I think you know what, there's 3 bailed, and I think it was those guys there.
Yep, they did most of the bailing.
Yeah, and everyone else...
And one was artillery.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a double bail when you saved it. So my artillery...
Yeah, because...
Yeah. Artillery fired... I think I just managed to kill... I killed the Commissar here.
That's right, Commissar, as usual.
And basically pinned one of the vehicles. And that was basically it. So a pretty disappointing shooting turn from the Germans, really.
It's the only turn where Russians haven't died in droves, so I'm happy that they're not dead, but that doesn't really describe how happy I am. Soviet turn 8, so in terms of motivations, he stayed, they unpinned. The guys already mounted there, up for the fight. In terms of movement, these T-34s have edged up a bit now, out with 28 off that line there, but they've moved up. T-60 stayed put, and then they've just edged up towards the river. And in terms of shooting, well, the artillery managed to range in and bailed out a Panzer IV. These guys got a hit and a bail on, well, they got 3 hits and ended up with 1 failed firepower to kill, so it was a bail. The anti-tank gun also got a shot and a hit, 2 shots, 1 hit. Mark mistaken targeted it onto the bail guy, failed his save, actually passed the firepower and killed it. So I killed a Panzer II and bailed a Panzer IV, and I'm still waiting for the big charge. And I don't imagine these guys will be alive by the end of this turn. We're going around the clock again, folks. Turn 9.
Okay, so our Panzer IV back here bailed back in, which is good news. And then basically the case of a bit of shooting. So the guys on the hill tried to knock out the guns. They hit 3 of the guns, but Frank saved all of them. Then we had some shooting from these guys, and these guys, and these guys onto Frank's tanks. I managed to knock out 2 with anti-tank fire and bail a couple. The Panzer IIs fired at infantry and did nothing. And then these guys fired a barrage, killed one of the infantrymen there, and managed to knock out one of the tanks as well.
So they're down to 2, but still got 2 operational, so they're still there, but it's a miracle they've got any operational.
And then the Panzer killed him with the artillery barrage as well. And the Panzer IIs basically shooting and scooted to get a bit further away from the nasty little Russian guns. And that's about it.
Soviet turn 9 wasn't very good for motivations. He didn't get back in, they didn't unpin, and a tank gun ran away. In terms of movement, I've got one T-34 going off on a mission, see if it can cause some trouble. These guys using the cross here, one managed to get across the river. The guys didn't shoot. They did not move or shoot. These guys got 1 hit on the Panzer IVs, but you know, it's very, very unlikely they'll kill it. The save was made easily. So that's my turn, folks. I can't really do anything else.
Okay, so the Germans have pushed forward on my right flank again, and with combined shooting from the 3 tanks over there and the 2 tanks here, knocked out a gun. The guys here managed to kill 2 infantrymen, so they've done a blitz and a follow me, so they're pushing forward. These guys failed to come out of the, well, one failed to come out of the woods, one came out of the woods,
With field blitz, yeah.
They did have a, oh no, they missed. These guys came forward to the blitz, popped 1 shot against the, one guy fired at the T-34, knocked it out. Another guy fired down there, knocked out a T-60. The artillery changed targets, so it brought the T-34s and the artillery battery under engagement. Managed to hit the guns, but didn't knock them out, and missed the tanks. However, we're now getting close to being able to force Frank to come in to us.
Yeah, we're also running out of time. So something's got to give, folks. Soviet turn 10. In terms of motivations, infantry legged it. But, you know, they're not really doing anything anymore anyway. I think that might have been it from, and these guys unpinned. So, in terms of movement, as you can see, 2 cross checks later, got 5 T-34s in the field, 2 behind it, and all the armour cars over. One of the T-60s, the other one got stuck. And in terms of shooting, there wasn't much, folks. Not much at all. These guys fired over here, managed to get 1 Panzer II. He fired and missed. The guys are not firing. Here they fired, got a hit, but 6 was rolled, so he's fine, he's saved. They managed to bail out 1 Panzer IV. And that's really about it for me now, folks. It's over to Mark to see if he can kill me. Turn 11.
Right, so the Germans have pushed forward We didn't get our tank back in, which is a bit of a pain, but our artillery did have some success. They managed to knock out one of his guns. And we've then basically concentrated all our fire of all of our Panzer IIIs rather, onto the T-34s and knocked out three.
1, 2, 3 and a bale.
And a bale on the company CO, but he's probably going to get back in. We've now got ourselves within the objective, but we're likely to face the full brunt of all the Russian firepower that we brought to bear. And we'll see what happens.
Soviet turn 11. So motivations went fine that turn. There was a last stand on those guys. HQ got back in. So in terms of movement, he moved. Everything else around here stayed put. And he moved up to get into command distance of him. And then in terms of shooting, these guys managed to kill a Panzer II. These guys managed to bail a Panzer II, and he managed to kill a Panzer II. He fired, missed. They fired, actually got 3 hits, out of 4. Bail, kill. Could have gone better, I suppose, but it's kind of academic by now. So, turn 12, we think it is, folks.
Right, turn 12, we have moved in closer and taken a few shots. We managed to knock out another one of his guns, so the artillery is looking a bit dodgy.
Why that? Your artillery bailed back in?
Yes, so he bailed back in and looked at that, so his artillery is hopefully going to go home. And we then managed to knock out, in total, we bailed out a T-60, and I think we managed to kill one T-34.
That guy there.
And that was it.
It's getting hard to tell who's alive or dead in there, folks.
Yes, and that's about it. But we failed a couple of blitzes, so therefore our shooting was more limited than we expected it to be. But that's the way it is.
Soviet turn 12. So in this turn, did not unpin but stayed. Did not get back in, but the platoon stayed. So in terms of movement, they stayed still. He moved, got a flank shot. And this is, look folks, bailed. These were all failed firepowers to kill. You know, there could be one tank left alive up there, one tank left alive over here. It's just no my night, folks. I forgot to do some shooting and scooting. I'll probably try some shooting and scooting, just to try and rearrange a few things.
Right, okay, so...
I think it's turn 13, by the way, but
yeah.
I guess.
Turn 13. Basically, we've concentrated everything to try and knock out the T-34s, except we had moved up the Panzer IVs. One had a shot at that guy over there, missed. 2 over here, hit him, but only managed to bail him. Then the HQ company fired into here. They actually knocked out the CO.
Yeah, I took all 4 hits on the CO. I didn't join, and I made 3 out of the 4 saves. Nearly.
The platoon over there missed entirely. The platoon here, I think they missed as well. Or did they get...
I think they just didn't have any effective hits.
No, man. These guys fired again at the revised CO and just managed to bail him.
Yeah, I took all 4 hits. I could have joined on to him, but I thought, what's the point? I took all 4 hits, made 3, failed 1, and Mark failed his firepower. So, I'm just going to do some motivations, folks, and we'll see if I've got another turn. Right, folks, so it's my turn 13 or something like that, as far as motivations go. God, 3 up last stand, guys, and he ran away with a reroll from him. He at least got back in, as did he, and he stayed to do a bit more shooting. These guys here, side shots everywhere, and every single one of them missed. He had 2 chances on 4s and missed both. He killed 2. He fired and missed. Right, Mark, explain how you finished me off.
Right, so basically, Panzer IVs blasted away, knocked out the company of them, so that's the game over. And the rest of the guys, we didn't actually bother with shooting because it's all over.
Yeah, because my company will break whatever happens. Yeah. Right, folks, we'll go over to recap. Right, folks, there you go, a win for Mark, and it was a long game. But let's first of all start talking about the dynamic points. I think if you compare Mark's list to the previous battle, all that anti-tank 9 he was able to bring makes a big difference, especially when you're up against T-34s. Maybe in the desert it's not quite so important, but in the Eastern Front I think it makes a big difference. So that's a definite positive for the for the German players as far as the dynamics points goes. As far as the Soviets go, yeah, more tanks is going to be good. If you're playing a balanced list like I was, you won't see a big uplift, but you will see an uplift in what you can take. T-34s, the more you bring, the cheaper they get under the new dynamic system. So you'll get more points, more tanks for your points. But you don't get more infantry, you don't get more guns. So hopefully it's not just going to push mid-war into a tank fest. I do like more balanced lists myself, but stick your own thoughts down in the comments on it, guys, your own experience, and see if you think it's still balanced to play a balanced list. Before we go over to a recap with Mark, I'll do my customary little pre-recap. So that game, I think the most important learning point for both me and Mark was aggression. I made a choice to go defensive when I had the option of attacking. And remember, it's a game where you're not going to win anything by defending, but I was psychologically destroyed. I can't even say it, folks. Psychologically destroyed by what happened to my T-34s. 3 Panzer IIIs, pretty much on the move for most of the time, took 2 turns to destroy them. It was actually just a bit of a statistical anomaly, shall we say, because they should have made their saves in the majority of cases. But when I saw that, and my reserves came on and then Mark backed off away from them, I thought, well, if I move in, he's going to swing 8 Panzer IIIs into them. So he could do that and move his other Panzer IIIs, Panzer IVs, and all those Panzer IIs onto the objective. So I thought I'll have to play the long game and go defensive for a bit. But I could have saved myself an hour of getting kicked in the face at long range if I'd have just gone for it. And sometimes you just got to go for it, folks, especially when you get nothing for not taking an objective. So that's a lesson for me. If you're worried about getting beat too quick, well, at least you're going for the win. And Mark, now his tactics, I thought his tactics actually were going to be for my army to die of old age. But that's me just being cheeky. It's a perfectly legitimate tactic to outrange your opponent and then fire at them and force them to do something or take the pain. But you've got to be careful with time. That, let me think, 3.5 hours game time I think we had there. So that was a long game, the majority of which was spent just killing a few infantry. If it was a tournament or such like, I'm sure Mark would have played it quicker. But just in general terms, just to be aware, so you don't get into bad habits, if you do outrange your opponent and having fun doing all the shooting, don't forget there will be a point at which you need to get stuck in. And if Mark had moved forward earlier, he would have got my tanks, would have had that fight. The chances are he would have won then, or not, depending on the dice. You know, sometimes the dice decide, like all those missed firepowers, but the infantry weren't doing anything. They weren't going to change the outcome. They were always going to be there at the end or destroy my tanks, and they're gone too because the formation's broken. So there's more than one way to skin a cat and all that. But a bit of aggression from both of us would have had a shorter game, hopefully one which would have been a bit more entertaining. I'm glad to say we didn't record all the dice rolling in that game, folks, because it was a hell of a lot. But it was still well played by Mark. He stuck to his strength, minimised his weaknesses because he was worried about his 3 tank platoons. They could quite easily fold, and he just gradually wore me down. Anyway, over to a recap with myself and Mark. Right, Mark, recap time. What did you think?
Good game. Well, I probably played it in the cautious German manner. But I've seen too many times my tanks go in and be repulsed back. Frank got his guys and reserves into place to stop my Panzer II, which is the largest formation, to actually knock out his infantry. They were doing quite well to begin with.
They were slaughtering my infantry.
But then they had to have some other targets come in. I was quite lucky over here. My reserve came on and knocked out that platoon, which actually was a big benefit to me. Frank withdrawing over there was a bit of a surprise, actually, because I would thought he'd come down this way to force me to keep my guys over here. He had the advantage in numbers, if not necessarily in firepower.
Yeah.
Firepower, it's a difficult one because the Germans are hard to hit, but there was only 3 versus 7, which would have been...
You would have been able to get your other platoons over very quick and into range. That was my thoughts.
Yeah.
You know, 28-inch range and me coming over, those guys would have been in range already and your HQ could have moved over. So you look isolated, but I knew it was just going to be a gamble. So I thought I'm just going to have to try and hold on. And if I had a modicum of luck, I might have held on. My luck was annoying, shall we say. I'm not going to say I had bad luck. I had annoying luck. These guys here rolled above a 3 once, I think, for the save, which meant they were getting just slaughtered everywhere when you hit on a 2. And that turn where I got 4 bailed out tanks just at the end, that might have held on for a ridiculous victory. And drawn. And that was the only thing I was holding on for, folks. Once that platoon was dead, and that quite often happens in this game, if whoever sticks their neck out first often gets it cut off. But I decided I was going to go for it. Reserves came on right away. I didn't have a chance to reposition.
That's very true. I've found that with a lot of games. You get your guys out in the flank, and the reserves just come on and hit you in the flank.
Yeah. But it's just about making a game. But me and Mark have been talking about it, and if this was like 3.5 hours, or maybe even more, so it probably would have timed out if it was an event. I'm glad it's not ended up as a draw, because I'm sick of draws on the channel. To be honest, there's been a bit too many recently. But from my personal point of view, I'm sure Mark enjoyed it. From my personal point of view, I just sat there and got my head kicked in for 3.5 hours. But as I said to Mark, he played the game his way. He got the win. So well played, Mark. Right, folks, thanks all for watching. As always, I'll do my wee spiel here, and thanks to all the subscribers out there. And if you'd like to subscribe, please do so. It'll help us build the channel. And if you hit the bell button, it means you'll catch all the painting guides, battle reports that we've got coming up, and it means we'll definitely see you all on the next one. Cheers, Mark.
Cheers, Frank.